the reality or the political problem is, as I said earlier, Congress tends to sort of work from wherever they are. They're like kind of just tweaking or adding stuff. They don't really generally like radically, let's throw this out and start anew. So it's really going to take the next president, to be honest, to set the direction. I mean, Miller and Kennedy, I think, are acknowledging more of the problems. Kennedy, I'd say more so than Miller, willing to look at things somewhat differently, but we just had a discussion with some of their staff about this issue in the law that says 100% of kids have to be proficient by 2013-14. It's like, well, that's going to be hard to change because it's in the law, and now then we'd be saying some kids don't have to be proficient. So it really, I think, is going to take the leadership of the next president, which is why we're putting so much effort into the campaign and working now on a variety of different documents to work with the nominee as well as Congress to try to change some of those frames and assumptions. And I also think that since the reality is, as you certainly know, I mean, whatever happens in No Child Behind, 90% of funding for education, and at least in the short run, is still coming from states and local levels of government. So I think it's the conversation states need to have as well about what their state says the purpose is and what the state systems around all these things are as well. One would be to continue to make your members of Congress and your 2 U.S. senators aware of, what the impact of this law is having on you and your students and your school. One of the things that's been very effective, again, as I said, is having members of Congress hear, I call sort of real-life stories. Again, I live in Washington, D.C., so I'm what they call in Washington inside the Beltway. Washington's encircled by a highway called the Beltway. An inside the Beltway person. That they want to hear from you, what is this how is this affecting my school? How is this affecting my students? How is this affecting our state? So I would encourage you to, talk to your members of Congress, your senators, invite them to come to your school, do things jointly. I mean, as I said, at the national level, we're working really closely with the school administrators, the school boards. Obviously, I don't know what the relationship is in your particular school, but trying to do joint things with them, with PTAs, with other groups. I think the message to Congress is one on the substance. There's a variety of complicated messages and a lot of things on the NEA website, but it's, reduce the emphasis on testing, make the law less punitive, give more support and respect to teachers as professionals, provide more resources for proven programs like class size, things like that. I mean, there's various levels of complexity. I think the other related messages, because they're somewhat separate tracks, is we need more money for education. So Senator Harkin in particular plays a big role in that. He's with us because he's the chairman of the Labor Health Education Funding Appropriations Subcommittee. But we need more members of Congress to try to stand up to the president and say, we're going to fight for more money for education, whether you, Mr. Bush, agree with us or not. We're going to try to raise the visibility of that issue. And obviously, the caucuses are over, but there's going to be a general election later on in the year, and we all need to work together to try to raise the visibility of education. Obviously, I don't know who either nominee is going to be. I don't think anybody knows. But in the general election, some people are sort of assuming, the Democrats are going to win. Well, that's not a given. The Republicans are literally kind of all over the map on education. So we need to keep raising this issue both in the congressional context and the political context, that we need relief from these unreasonable and unfair burdens, and we need more resources for public education. I think are those kind of simple messages in a way.
And don't forget after-school programs.
There's a whole long list after school. I could run through them all.